Some of my more longtime viewers will know that a good while back I reviewed a cyberpunk detective game called Lacuna. It was a pretty good game with a cool mystery and aesthetic alongside a really good soundtrack that I sometimes use during the intermissions of my live streams. Well, the developers of Lacuna, Digitales Interactive, released another sci-fi detective game a few months ago. This time, instead of being set in a cyberpunk cityscape, we're on a rotating spaceship set to reach another planet for humanity to colonize. Does this game meet or exceed the standards set by the developer's debut title, or will it fall short of the potential that a good mystery game can have? It's about time we put our detective hats back on and see. This is Between Horizons. The visual and audio presentation was something that I loved previously from Lacuna, with its pixelated yet detailed city and characters. Between Horizons takes that and just takes it even further, really. It's clear that a lot of work has been done to make the Zephyr, the ship you're on, as visually interesting and appealing as possible. Which is good, because these are the only environments you'll be seeing for the entire game, since everything takes place on this ship. Despite being pixelated and only visible on a 2D plane, the environment is actually made of 3D objects, allowing for there to be a level of depth and detail to things like lighting that simply aren't possible in a standard 2D pixel game. My only real complaint is that certain objects which are important for the story can be so small or blend in so well with the environment that you might not even notice them while you're running around trying to solve a case. And on the audio front, everything that's there is just as high quality as before, if not better. Though there wasn't quite a song that stuck out to me the same way that the song Catherine from Lacuna did, but it's still all excellent work. If anything, I just wished more of the dialogue was voice acted so I could keep enjoying it. And speaking of dialogue, what's the story about this time? You might have picked up on a few hints regarding the story from what you've seen and what I've already said, so let's get into the explicit details of it. You play as Stella, a woman who lives on a colony ship dubbed the Zephyr. From what we're led to believe, the Earth has not been doing too hot for a while now, and so the Zephyr was built and populated with precisely 1,300 people who were sent off into space, Stella and her father included. The goal of the Zephyr, also known as the Mission, and yes, whenever they say mission, it's with a capital M, is to reach the planet Eurus D and colonize it so that humanity can continue on even if all efforts to preserve the Earth just fail. The catch? The Zephyr won't actually reach Eurus D until 100 years later, meaning a few generations past our main characters will be the ones actually landing and colonizing the planet. All Stella is supposed to do is help maintain society on the ship, just like everyone else. This job becomes extra stressful when her father, Chief of Security William, is killed by an unknown criminal. And now, having ascended to the post of chief, Stella has to investigate various cases aboard the Zephyr to uncover the rumblings of discontent, who's behind them, and whose side she's on, as well as hopefully find her father's killer. It's all very dramatic, I assure you. As far as how the story actually stands up to this lofty description, well, pretty well, I think. The overall mystery is good, really playing up the fact that you're stuck on this ship with everyone else and all the drama that entails, especially with how all the multiple different mysteries end up intertwining, sometimes unintentionally. Although, maybe sometimes certain characters being culprits in certain mysteries can be a little too random. Like, some of the surprise culprits did feel too out of the blue. There wasn't much build up to them at all. They just kind of exist. You just meet them during the case and then, oh, would you look at that, they're the one who did it. You barely know anything about them at that point. All clues happen to point to them. But all in all, the story is very well structured and makes good use of its setting. It also makes good use of the fact that it's a video game, as there is no save function in the game beyond autosaves. Combine that with what looks to be a pretty vast ending structure, and you've got a game where your choices genuinely do matter by the end. And on the note of choices, let's discuss the gameplay.
I kept staring at the notes for my speech, even though I wasn't reading a word of it. We had agreed to frame my father's death as an unfortunate accident, to keep the intruder a secret in the name of public peace and safety. It was our highest imperative. If there was a person between the ship's population and their safety, they would get crushed by design. There was no security override to save the individual. In a way, this concept made sense to me. It had to. After all, I was the chief of security now.
The gameplay is, well, it's the exact same gameplay as Lacuna. Seriously, I find it very difficult to find anything that's truly all that different between the two in terms of how you actually play them. The only new thing I can think of might be the scanning tool that you can use with the spacebar to highlight interactable objects, but that's really all there is. Beyond that, everything else is the same. You've got your PDA to track cases, evidence, a map, comms, etc., and you walk around exclusively with the keyboard, which still frustrates me to a level that is certainly irrational. This game is perfect for a point-and-click adventure. It basically is a point-and-click adventure. So why am I not allowed to walk around by pointing and clicking? It's so much more convenient than using WASD for everything. Apparently, the game is also on Switch, which makes me think that the controls were built to accommodate console controls first and foremost, leaving the game to feel kinda awkward if you play on PC without a controller. Like, sure, you can do that, but we're not stuck using mouseless Commodore 64s anymore, so why would we keep resigning ourselves to pure keyboard control? I'm just saying, I thought we figured this out in the 90s. My irrational frustrations aside, the rest of the gameplay is pretty good. The biggest thing comes from the fact that your choices genuinely do matter. You have no way to save scum, and even minor dialogue options can influence how the people around you feel and how they act in the future, as well as influence the evolving cases as things get more desperate. If you screw up a dialogue option or make the wrong choice in a case, well, that's on you, and you're gonna have to face the consequences later. It gives the game a good chunk of replayability, although I can imagine after like one extra playthrough, you're basically just filling out a checklist of things to do to see what happens. So that is Between Horizons. All in all, I'd say it's a fairly objective improvement over almost everything from Lacuna. The devs pretty much just took the lessons they learned from that and built upon them here. It's not trying anything terribly new, though, and I could definitely see this becoming a bit formulaic if the devs don't experiment a little bit more with their next title, especially in the story department. But either way, it's a solid mystery that I'd recommend to pretty much anyone who's into this stuff. This has been TheRatMan, and I will see you all later. And lastly, a thank you shout out to Mike Uniturtle. Thank you for the $5.